up? What's going on tonight? I'm here. I'm here with the gentleman tonight. We're gonna get into some things. I'm here on the Speak Easy show. Y'all already know Brian is gonna come at my neck like he always do. But I got me a drink tonight, and I'm here for it. We're gonna have an open conversation. And here goes the lovely gentleman located to my left and my right. Go ahead. I'm the guest tonight. Go ahead and do your thing. Make sure you guys follow them. Follow them on all platforms. Over here on Instagram. Follow everybody on Instagram. Mr. Kenneth Wilson, with Black Squirrel Media. He's out here
What's
changing
going
lives
on?
one day at a time. And then we also have, Mr. Ryan Dunston. I gotta find your stuff, but go ahead. Here we
Hey, how
go.
y'all doing, man? This is
What's going
Ryan
on, y'all? How y'all
Dunston.
doing tonight? Ryan, what's going on, y'all?
What's going on, man? So listen, I wanted to real quick, before we stepped into it, I wanted to capitalize before we stepped in and gave the topic for the night. We
Mhm.
ended the show off last week abruptly, right? We
Okay.
was dealing with some technical difficulties, but then also when we jumped back on, we had my guy Rudy, he was talking about the pain of black women, right? And Kenny, I know you was watching, man. We know we was
Mm,
traveling to
yeah,
Dallas, and but you was
yeah,
tuning in, and
Kenny
you
was
got a
getting
chance
Kenny
to.
got flued out. Kenny got flued out.
yeah.
he had to go handle some big stuff, man.
Uh,
Um,
I wish it was fluid out. It was business. Yeah,
well, but look, I wanted to at least address it because it ended abruptly, and I wasn't sure if anyone was able to hear it at all.
Okay.
Um, but the way that it ended, Rudy was, and I'm going to try my best to explain this the best way I can, but Rudy was explaining about the black pain of the pain of black women, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was also expressing his opinion on why black women, um, or excuse me, why black men was dating outside of our race. And, and I guess to his defense, what he was trying to articulate was black women, stop smiling, Candace.
I'm
Black
listening.
women, black women, are hurt and rightfully so because they've had to deal with what happened to the black man, the attack upon the black man, and it kind of left them in like a deserted area or a deserted position. And they
Mm-hmm.
had to evolve and elevate, right? Became defensive, became angry in some cases, rightfully so.
Okay.
And definitely a healing process is needed. But my take on that, and Kenny, I'm gonna get your take on that was, and this is gonna take us into our topic, smooth transition.
Yeah.
But this actually,
yeah.
um, I deal with it too. Don't you think for a second that my wife don't be angry? You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
However, I do believe that as the black man,
Right.
we get in there and we endure. We get in there and endure and we heal, and we heal with one another. We both go through our healing processes together. And I don't think that I have the right, me personally, I can't speak for another man. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that a man is not allowed to date outside his race. That's not what I'm saying either. I'm just saying that if your reason for dating outside the race is because black women are defensive and angry and all of this other stuff, I don't believe that's a reason for me. Because I'm in pain. I had to heal, right? And
Okay.
my wife endured it, right? So on the other
Okay.
side of covenant, the only right thing for me to do is to get in there and endure what she's dealt with as well.
Okay.
And through that, we kind of build and form a foundation for our black family. But Kenny,
Okay.
what you think about it?
I'm kind of in agreement with you. I don't think like that pain. That's a reason to for men to be dating outside the race. I think for someone who has, I have before I got married dated outside the race, and that wasn't the reason. Black woman pain wasn't the reason. It was
Mm-hmm.
just that I was curious, you know.
Okay.
And I think that goes both ways. I think sometimes we're curious about other people. We live around other people, other races and stuff, and sometimes you just may find attraction to someone else. I don't think it's because of black woman pain and things like that. Um, like I said, for
Me,
me,
yeah.
it was just purely curious. I found, traction, all those other things, but it wasn't. It had nothing to do with black women. You know, and I love black women, so I understand what you guys are saying, but I don't agree with the pain part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you think, Candace?
He sip my sippy sip.
Here
Oh,
we
let me
here we
get
go.
mine too.
You already
Here
know,
we
Kenny. You
go.
already know you're gonna have to be like flag on it, flag on it.
I know. I'm ready. I'm ready
I,
to throw it.
I think that people. I think that people also what people forget about it is that black women date outside their race as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We choose some white men, some Asian men, and things like that. My only issue with that is it's always being resorted to that the black woman is so angry or the black woman is just bitter, the black woman is just so just hostile, and then to make it sound better, to give it a justification is like, okay, well, that's because of we always go back to slavery and the things and the pain that we had to endure. And I just feel like to a degree some of that is an excuse. It's used as an excuse that people try to use as a justification for people, for women being the way that they are, when people really, men, women, human, all look at the bigger thing. Like, you do something to a person, they're going to be upset. They're going to be angry. If you aren't better, if you aren't doing better, then if all I have is my experiences, then that's fine. That's all I can go of. But I can change and get better and attract better, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, just because it's not working with a black man, or I'm just so angry when black men go and they date other women outside their races. Like, I think that we need to stop putting all that pressure and that label on the black woman. I don't really get into a lot, so I like this because you make me have conversations that I usually wouldn't have. So, I definitely appreciate it because you accept my opinions as that. We might black my eye on here, but you're gonna like me after it's over. But I think that that black men disrespect black women more than anybody. To me, this is my opinion. This is my opinion. One, I think black women disrespect themselves, sometimes. And I think that black men contribute to that as well. I know we don't really talk about it. I'll get more into it on Wednesday, but just case in point with this whole situation that just happened with the baby and what he did to his baby mother. Have y'all seen that? Okay.
Nah,
Just
I
I
don't be
saw
straight.
a little bit
tapping
of
in.
it.
Okay, yeah. Well, look, I'm gonna cover that on Wednesday, y'all. Make sure y'all give us a heart and a thumbs up to let us know you're here. I forgot. Give us a heart and a thumbs up to let us know
Yeah.
you're here tonight. And I think that those men usually that complain about the black woman being bitter, it's like, what's your man facts? What's your report look like? What's your relationship report looks like? Especially those who have daughters. It's like, you are the first role model, male role model. Any parent is, but you're the first man. So if you ain't shit, if you doing things wrong, your child is going to attract a dude just like her dad. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't really think that it all should be placed on the black woman is to be blamed for a lot of the things. I think it's really just a people thing. It's some shitball people out here, you know. But
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that and let's and just to give you guys what the topic is for today, it
mm-hmm.
is relationship dilemmas. Um,
Relationship dilemmas.
but to comment on what you said, Candice, I don't know if it's a evil it's an even burden to bear, right? Because I think that I as black men,
Mm-hmm.
I can go on a tangent about how I feel disrespected, right? But then I'm pretty sure y'all can do the same thing as black women, right? And I don't even know if I want to get into a conversation about who's disrespected more because now we're saying,
No.
who's hurt more. Oh, I'm hurt more than you hurt. And I don't really want to have that conversation, right? Because pain is relative. You guys
Mm-hmm.
deal with the whole world of pain that I have. I don't have, I can't, I cannot, I don't know what it feels like.
Yeah.
I don't know what it feels like. And I can empathize to a sense because I come out of a single parent household, which is my
Mm-hmm.
mom,
Mm-hmm.
right? And she's a black woman. So I've kind of seen firsthand what she's had to endure. And then as I got older, I had firsthand knowledge and I got a chance to sit front row seat to see what she had to deal with as a single black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I completely empathize, right? But only to a certain extent, right? I still can't say that I know exactly what that feels like, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I listen to TD Jake say all the time, we not having it when my wife has we not having a baby. My wife is having a baby,
Yeah.
right? I'm there to share the experience, but I don't know what it feels like. You know what I'm saying? And I guess that's what I mean by that. I can't necessarily say what you guys feel or what happens
Mm-hmm.
to you guys, or how much pain you guys, or not to even say that your pain is even more than what we feel. But what I can say is, as a black man who's got out here and was raised you know, in a single parent household, I can feel the disrespect from a male's perspective too, but then also get a chance to see how the black man, my black father, was attacked, and how my black grandfather and my black great grandfather, you know, now that I'm looking at it through a set of mature eyes, I can see how we were targeted and affected, and as a result, the black woman has been too.
I mean, yeah. I'm so see. I'm real big on like just the experiences because I personally don't feel disrespected as a black woman. I can honestly say that. Like, I try not to even certain things I just can't, everybody can't relate to everything, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I've been in a
Yes.
relationship or dealt in situations and friendships where I felt disrespected or things were done that were disrespectful, but I've never been one that felt like the world was against me because of my skin color. And let me clear that up because I know a lot of the people who be pro, that's not what that's not what I'm saying. It's just that I'm big on the whole, be the energy you want to attract. And a lot of times when you just negative, you always thinking negative thoughts turn into things and they manifest. You're gonna attract a lot of that stuff to you. So have I dealt with racism? Absolutely. Did I make it? Have I made it a big old like, oh, these white people and these and that? I don't do that because I just certain things I just can't relate to. But as far as me feeling like I'm disrespected, I personally don't feel disrespected. But like you said, I'm aware and I can see it. You know what I'm saying? Like you're able to see what other men go through. I'm able to see the disrespect that women speak of. But personally, certain things, I just don't have no experience there. Like I just can't relate to it.
Yeah. You know, listen, man, I can't speak for your situation personally,
Yeah.
but what I will say is I've seen situations where I can clearly see that when a woman landed in a single parent household, I find it because I kind of think that a lot of the pain that you guys have, right, and the edge that you guys do have about
Hmm.
you, is as a result of I think the disrespect is subconscious or maybe underlining in a sense,
Yeah, I do.
because
Yeah, I understand
when a
that. I
man
definitely understand that.
yeah, because when a man doesn't change for you, I think that's disrespectful. If you have a woman, I mean, if you have a baby with someone, I'm not saying you got to stay, but you
Yeah.
got to the child makes you change. It should make you change, and if you choose not to, I think that is disrespectful and that's selfish.
But people gotta
And
change when they want to, though. You
for
can't.
sure,
You can't.
but you can't have a child and say I'm still going to change when I choose to. Like that's not how that's supposed to work. I'm not saying that's not how it works,
Right.
but it's not how it's supposed to work, right?
Absolutely.
You are not supposed to have a child and then because now your life is not your own. It's no
That's right.
longer your life anymore. You're living for your child. So now that you're just going to still say when you've had a child, I'm going to do what I want regardless
Right.
is to me completely irresponsible in so many levels. And there is pain connected to that decision,
Yeah.
pain that that man is just simply unwilling to deal with. What
Yeah.
you think, Kenny?
I think when it comes to pain and the whole topic, I think black men and black women are disrespected. It may be different for different reasons,
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes down to who's disrespected more, I don't care. Why does it matter who's disrespected more?
Mm-hmm.
How about we focus on, yes, we acknowledge this is happening, and what are we going to do about it? How are we moving forward with it?
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is, yes, we both know disrespect is it goes both ways. It comes in many different forms. You know that should be a given at this point.
Yeah.
But the next thing is, okay, how can we together change that? And I think that's what we focus on. So a lot of these conversations I know we're having, it's not just here places. Let's acknowledge some of these things first. I think it's okay to acknowledge it. We don't have to go back and forth tit for tat with men and women, black men and black women. We,
Yeah.
we, we know this part. Now let's deal with it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, I definitely,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. Like you hear more about everybody complaining about it, but nobody, having a
Yeah,
solution, or nobody's like trying to be better, or wanting to do something different. You know what I mean? I definitely
yeah,
feel that. Yeah.
Yeah. So diving into our topic, right? Because the pain of a black woman and the pain of a black man, Kenny, like you said, we equally share some pain in there, maybe from different perspectives. But in order to get through that pain, I feel that, one of the things that, which is one of the things we need to talk about here is communication. We got to be able to properly communicate. I mean, because we are constantly missing one another. I
Yeah.
say something, I say one, and my wife hear 19, right? My wife say 19, and I hear 56. And we are constantly missing one another,
or
right?
can
And
or
then we
Candace
gotta
or Candace tell you toxic, and you hear no change.
or poison or poison. Yes, that is exactly what I hear.
oh man,
Right? But that yes, right? But that's when we start to analyze what we've already talked about, some of the topics we've already talked about, which is words have power. What are the true meanings of it?
Yeah.
Right? How
yeah,
are they understood? How are we using those words? What's the tone behind those words, right?
Yeah.
It's not always what
yeah,
you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
Especially, excuse me, y'all, especially in a relationship where you're trying to gain ground, right? When you're trying to build a future, when you're trying to create a foundation for your children, you guys have to be on one accord. So you can't constantly miss one another. Or at least that there has to be some kind of progression in that exchange.
Yeah.
yeah. Let me jump in here. We're talking about communication. This is one of the things I actually study for a brief moment in time. And one of the things I'll start off here with you guys is when we talk about communication. I think a lot of times we get mixed up in this because we communicate for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times we don't communicate for other people. So as I'm talking, like, we have different perspectives. We all hear things differently. But I think if we start with communication, we have to realize that we're communicating for the other person to be able to receive and understand it. But a lot of times we just say it because we want to say it. We say it the way we want to, the way we think it feels good for us, and things like that.
Yeah.
But we're not communicating for them to understand. But for them to understand, mean that we have to understand that person first, or we're trying to understand that person first. Because, like I said, it's a language thing. It's almost like speaking two different languages. But I have to learn how they're going to receive it too, how they're going to interpret the information. So at some point, I got to start thinking, okay, I got to learn. We're talking about partners, talking about relationships. I got to learn my partner. I got to learn how they communicate, some of the things they hear, how they process information, which is not
Mm-hmm.
that hard if you really think about it, y'all. But you just got to take a little bit of effort to pay attention to them.
Yeah.
So when I communicate for that person, they're understanding what I'm saying. They can interpret and break down what I'm trying to tell them in a proper manner. So that way I'm getting my message across properly. So that's why a lot of times emotion doesn't work. Saying things out of haste doesn't work because we're not sending the proper messages the way they need to receive it. It's almost like,
Yeah.
think about a computer. And I hate to say our bodies are like computers, but think about it. If you type in a different code and the computer doesn't receive it properly,
Yeah.
because it wasn't the right code. And so what happens? You get an error message. Humans are the same way. We don't what happened? You know. And so
Yeah.
that's, to me. I'll start there with you guys and get y'all thoughts there.
Well,
Well,
that's why
listen.
a lot of time. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. No, no, no,
No.
I'm listening.
And that's why a lot of the times, for myself, I always say, when I'm talking to somebody, I always say, "What did you hear?" Because of the way
Yeah,
that we speak and the way that we communicate. Everybody, I think we forget that everyone interprets things differently. So if I say something and you like that's not what I meant. That's not you said I always forget to take the trash out. And it's like, That no, what did you hear? I just said, hey, the trash needs to go out, whatever. You forgot to take the trash out last night as well. But you received, oh, she said I do this all the time. You know what I mean? So a lot of times that's what I do. I was like, well, what did you hear? Or I try to always tell people like, look, I'm not always the best at explaining things correctly or maybe a way that you understand, but let me know if you're having a hard time because so we could keep on talking about it. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of times I seen here in a comment shout outs to Sanera and Patrice and Jamal and Steven and everybody for joining us
Yeah.
tonight. She said effective listening and not just speaking. That plays a part. And then also Sanera, she said, because I gotta shine a light on the ladies that's talking. You feel me? Said
You let them know.
we listen to respond and not to understand most of the time. And I think that's true. I think that we're just naturally, it seems like we're always on like the defense, ready to defend, you know?
Yeah, and listen, that was gonna be my rebuttal, Kenny. I agree with you, but that's hard to maneuver when you are feeling. And as man and woman, we both get lost in our emotions at times, so it's hard to do what you articulated.
Yeah,
And that's where a more mature individual has to give, like Miss Cypress said, excuse me, was it Miss Cypress or was it Miss Alfred? But Miss Alfred, but
that's a
we
man,
got to give
Steven.
grace. Oh, Stephen. Oh, my
Lord,
apologies.
Lord. Sorry, Steven. He ain't see you. I'm over here. I got
My
Yeah,
you.
bad.
yeah.
I got you.
I'm still learning, King. But listen, but no, seriously, it becomes a situation where you don't. It's hard to hear when you are trying to get through the the swamplands of your emotions. It's hard to even communicate it correctly when you're trying to get through the swamplands of your emotions. And sometimes, like they said, you have to have grace, and that comes with sacrifice. So sometimes you got to be willing to have your feelings crushed,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The
Or
humility,
or
humility,
yeah,
yes.
Yes.
or sometimes we can't communicate out of our immediate emotions. Sometimes we do have to take a moment, take a step back. Sometimes let that emotion pass. That's why sometimes like it's ready, you ready to go, you ready to go. But sometimes you know what, give it a minute. Sometimes it's okay to step away for that
I
second.
add Kenny, and that's where we both me and you about to fight because
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that take a moment and just hear me. Try, hear me to listen and not
I'm
to
listening.
respond, Kenny.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
you
Because
know,
this is what I do. I can go ahead.
it, but just try to understand it. And I don't know, like I said, we are. I think us men and women, we're just wired differently anyway. We are. But it's that whole give me a minute. Like I'm all for people needing a moment. If you feel like you're going to say something in the heat of the moment, there's may not be respectful or something you don't want to say. But my thing is like when you deal with people and some people, not everybody like to hear what you've done to them. You understand? So it's like a moment. What does you needing a moment look like? Because if you know something transpired or we're not getting along or we're trying to come up with a solution for something, you can have a moment, but your moment shouldn't take days, weeks, and months at a time in a heat of something that is a serious issue. You understand? I think sometimes people take that needing a moment thing, some people abuse it. For instance, you walk in the house, catch your wife's legs in the air with a whole nother man, you choose to stay, right? Or and then you want to talk and she like, give me a minute. Her minute, you like she going about her day like you ain't just caught her yesterday or today. You understand? So I need y'all to help us ladies, understand these moments, or even if it's not infidelity, even if it's look, I didn't know that you were gonna go in my bank account and take out $2,000. And it's like it's a big deal to you, but it's little to them. It's like, well, I need a moment. It's like, is a moment always good to have? Like that's really my or is it going to have to be a case by case basis? Because I know for me personally, I'll take it as you. I'll feel because can't nobody tell you how you feel is wrong. I'll feel like you're dismissing my feelings.
Well, I'll say this, right? When and Kenny, you correct me if I'm wrong, but if
Y'all
I'm
put
the
some heart
guy,
emojis up if y'all are tuning in tonight, you guys. Let us know. Share the show. Share the show. Give us a heart and thumbs up so we'll know that you guys are here. And give us some feedback on that. Like, what do you guys think? How do you guys feel about needing to take a moment in the serious situation moment?
to communicate properly. She got to finish that, y'all. But what
Yeah.
I'm saying, what I'm saying is, if I'm the guy that walks in the room, right, and my wife with her legs in the air, I gotta walk away. I beat and kill everybody in the room, right? So I have to walk away,
Okay.
not her,
Okay.
right? I need the time so that I could properly communicate what needs to be done, and that may be leaving the situation. That may be, I might need the time so I don't end up in jail that night. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? I might need the time so that I could properly articulate my feelings, because how many times do we walk away from a situation saying, dang, I should have said this, and I should have said this, and I should have said this, and this,
Yeah.
right? And then, to address what you said, what if it is just taking out the trash and that guy had a bad day, but you're the one that's not being heard, right? What if it's you that takes that minute? Like, what if you take a step back and say, not him, what if you take a step back and say, you know what, I need to figure out a way to properly convey this over to him because he's not getting what I'm saying. What I have been doing isn't working. And
Okay.
everyone knows doing the same thing without results is insanity. So
Yes.
why don't you take your step, right? Not for that person. Take your step back, not for that person, right? Not for the sheer grace of his feelings, but for yours, right? So that
Absolutely.
you can get it all out
Absolutely.
correctly, so that you can shift how you need to say it, how you can be as effective as you can be, and so you ain't got to be so hot when you do it.
I get that too. Like I'm all for the moments taken. I'm all for the moments being taken. I guess it's just a really of like the clarification of like some things, no matter what they may be. You know how something may be small to you, but big to your partner or big to your friends or big to them, and you like, oh, are you really fussing with me right now about me leaving the syrup out? It's like I feel like it's gonna have to be case by case basis because I would hate for something drastic to happen or my feelings or my partner's feelings to be completely crushed. And I'm like, you're pissed off. You're upset. Give me a minute. I don't want to punch you in your motherfucking face.
Oh yeah, that's never gonna work.
So I'm just
That's never gonna
I
work.
think it is a
that's what
case
I'm
by.
but I'm just
Well,
saying
I think
I think that moments have to come with case by case basis. And then I feel like as humans, like if you've messed up or something ain't going your way, like like I'm just big on treat somebody the way you would want to be treated in the middle of a moment.
yeah. Well, let me throw this out there too. We're talking about having moments in times of being upset and duress. These conversations about having a moment happen in times when things are good. This is when we communicate with our partners and say, hey, when I'm upset, this might happen, and this is why I'm asking for this.
Yes.
We understand each other before the bad shit happens.
Yeah.
That's what should be happening. So when I
Yeah.
get upset or when something hits the fan, we already kind of know how this is gonna go down a little bit. You kind of already know how I'm gonna respond, baby. You see my shit.
Yeah.
You know when I'm having a bad day. You see my because we're reading each other. That's why when times are good, this is when you have these conversations. This is
Yeah.
when you learn each other. This is when you figure each other out. So that's why when you have, like I said, okay, when I tell my wife I need a moment, she knows it's only going to be a couple minutes because we've already talked about what that looks like for me. Or she's seen it before and we've processed it afterwards.
Yeah.
So she knows he gonna go downstairs for a second. He gonna come back in a couple minutes and we're gonna have this conversation. Or I'll even say that. Hey, let me get a minute. I'm gonna go downstairs real quick. Let me get my mind right. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I can say that too. You
Yeah.
know, that's when it comes in. So that way, because when the time to hit the fan, our emotions might get the best of us. You're probably not gonna come out that way anyway.
And you know
It
what, Kenny?
never
That's something that
does.
I
Let's
had to
be
learn.
honest about that.
And that's something,
Let's
you
be
know
honest
what,
about
Ryan?
that. It
I'm gonna be
never, when
honest
our
with you
feelings are in
tonight,
the middle
Ryan.
of it,
That's
what you
something I
say? Go
had
ahead.
to.
I'm
I
sorry.
said I'm gonna be honest with you tonight too. You know, for you. No, that before I let you finish, I had to learn that. You know, and that and Kenny, that's big. I think I really agree. I definitely agree with that because it's like once I got older and I started growing and became more mature and just being open and being able to stand in my feelings regardless of how the outcome is going to be. You know, I did begin to have those conversations before shit all hell break loose or something. And I would say, you know, to what you said, that does make a difference. It definitely does make a difference because you have to learn and know your person. So yeah, shout outs to you for that.
Yeah, and yeah, because feelings, man, because let's be honest, man, shit is gonna hit the fan. You
Yeah.
are gonna have hostile situations. You are gonna
Yes.
have
Yep.
conversations that will be sparked, and feelings will get the best out of both of y'all. It's not gonna just be one or the other,
Hmm.
right? There's gonna be times where one
Yes.
person is it feels offended, and then there's gonna be other times where the other feels offended. But you know, you're not even, and in those moments, you're not even gonna stop to even think about
Yeah.
the conversation you had prior to,
Yeah.
right? So what I'm saying is that moment that you give yourself allows you to think about what you did speak about prior to. You
Yeah.
know, that moment that you give yourself allows you to put things into perspective before you do something you didn't mean to do. Now I'm still growing, man. I'm still getting better
Yeah.
because Kenny, you said you go downstairs for a couple of minutes. Well, I go out and I take a 3 hour ride, depending
Hey,
on
the
how
work,
I'm
but each one that works for you. We all have our things that we go
right.
to, and that's okay. That works for you. Like for me, also too. When you learn your partner, you kind of know how they're gonna respond to stuff. You might
Exactly.
know the
You
typical go
do.
tos, right?
You
You
already
You
know
know,
what's gonna
do.
like
piss
when
them
I know
off.
she's pissed. When I know she's pissed off, she gets quiet. She don't speak. The air is thick. I'm getting up out of there first because I already
Yeah.
know what's about to happen. So
Yeah.
before she even had to say something, damn, I already know. But now, because I know how to deal with that too. Because we've already seen it, we experienced it. That's why I say a lot of times, are you taking the time to learn your partner in these situations? And that sometimes takes your put your ego aside, take your pride out of it,
Yeah.
and begin to learn that. And
Yeah.
so I think if you understand, you can kind of anticipate some of this stuff too, though.
Yeah.
Now let me ask y'all, and I want y'all to be 100 with me, right? This is the Candy Coated Secrets show, so please don't tell me no lies here. All right.
Ah!
Now, Kenny, you're a king and you are a mature king, but you don't get that way without doing dumb stuff, right? So
Yes.
that means you and Candace, you're a woman. So I just by the sheer fact that you're a woman, I'm gonna leave it there,
Ooh,
right?
that's so
So
Yep.
sexy.
what I'm saying is, because I have been known to hit my wife switches when I'm offended. I know what I know exactly what to do and how to do it and what
See,
to say
see.
and how to say it. All right. And I'm not saying that that's always the best way, right? But what I am saying is if what when I am so pissed
Yeah.
that I can't get a word in edgewise, I can't even get to my keys to find my 3 hour drive. There are moments where I will say something to make me feel better in a moment
Yeah.
that ends up lasting a whole, I ended up destroying the whole week.
See.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
Be honest with me.
Yeah. That yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be 100% honest. This is going to sound crazy. I know y'all not going to agree with me. I'm a believer in self-preservation. I don't like before I get to that point. I don't want to say something because I got to deal with that later on the back end. So what do I do before I even get to that point? I'm moving away or something. I know I can press the buttons. I know I can be a
Have
habitual
you
mind
though?
flipper. In the
Before?
past, yeah, we all have. We
All
all
right,
have.
don't let me stand on
But
this island by
we all have.
myself.
No, I'm not gonna let you stand on it by yourself. I'm not. I'm not. And that's why I say I can do that. I know the buttons to press, but I don't want to press them because I don't want to.
But did
Because
you
now I got to
okay, but
deal with
did you
her being
used to
hurt.
press them? Before you became who you are and what you know now, did you used to press them? Or have there been a time
Right,
that you pressed them?
right. Because
Yeah,
Kenny, what
that's
I'm
why I learned.
saying
And I
is, My bad. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that we do that now. I mean, the older we get, the
Yeah,
more we go through, the more we
Yeah.
learn how much that sets us back. Yes, we make the adjustment, but I'm going somewhere with it, right?
yeah,
Because if you know how to hit her switches, then you know how to soothe her too. That's where I
and
was
that's the
going with it.
thing.
Because,
Yeah.
and that's what I mean by communication, right? And same thing with you, Candace. If you know what buttons to hit, you know what'll soothe the king too, right?
Absolutely.
So we all have the ability to be strategic in the manner in which we communicate with our counterparts, so that we can have this proper communication, so
Yeah.
that we could build this foundation.
Yeah. That's,
So
you know
so
what?
listen. So say something right here. Say something right here. We have the ability, right? But what always stops us in those situations?
Ego, pride.
Us, our
I think it's
ego and
ego.
pride. It is. Ego always tells us, "Nah, go ahead. Nah, you need to win this one. Nah, she need to hear this. You're gonna hear it." It does. So once we have control over that, that's what we have to get with. That's what we have to learn. A
Yeah.
lot of times it's us projecting how we feel and how we deal with on them. And that's what we end up pressing buttons. That's what we end up crossing the line, saying something, go do something wild. And so I just
Slinging
wanted, before you
mud.
move on, I have to say that deal with the ego.
Yeah.
It'll solve so many problems. It'll take so many issues away.
And a pride. And to hit on what you said, Ryan,
Yes.
shockingly, I agree. Um no. But yeah, to really hit on what you said, that like that's true. And I'm very transparent. And I remember, like someone that was teaching me about all these different things with life, when I always used to say, I have something, maybe I need to release it. Where it's like the same person that can give you pain, or the same person that's hurting you, is also the same one with the antidote. The same one that can take it away. And I remember going through things before with my daughter's father in the past, and I'm on the phone talking. You always gotta. I recommend, whenever y'all give us a heart and a thumbs up when you hear. I recommend when you're going through something, at least talk to somebody that's a whole lot more wiser than you. That's not gonna really tell you something stupid. And I remember one time, this was like in 2016, and I was like, oh, he this, I don't do this. And I'm like, I'm calling her this. And she's like, he knows you was with him 17 years. He knows what to do to get you to calm down. He knows what to do to get you off of your heightened anger, your frustration, and it wasn't until I was like 20, 28 at that time, I didn't even know what she meant. You know what I'm saying? Until like years, down the line as I grew, because that's true. Like, when you have somebody and you've been with them, and if you are getting to learn them, and I think that's another issue too. A lot of people aren't with people to learn them. They just end these situations and just going with however it goes. And then it's like,
For
soon as
for
something
them.
crazy happens,
Yeah.
oh, I'm done. I would like to call them, everybody's in a microwavable situation. You pop in 30 seconds in the microwave, you pop out, you pop in, and that's what it is. A lot of people aren't really trying to take that extra step to learn people, because everything is so easy. So, I did realize that, Ryan. I did realize that in the previous relationship, and I had to like really understand that, like, stop worrying and stressing yourself out, because the motherfucker know your heart. You know what I'm saying? You gotta know this person,
Yes.
and to me, it's like, if you say you know me, if you say you love me, then you should want to fix it. You know how to fix it, but don't also try to fix it and use that as leverage either. Because some people can try to take it and use it as manipulation to get what they want. You understand? Versus really trying to say, you know what? All right, every time I piss her off, I'm not gonna keep bringing her flowers. If you know flowers make her smile. So now every time something go on, you just keep bringing the flowers. It's like, nigga, I don't even like flowers no more. You understand? Like, so I definitely agree with that. And
so
this is right here
so
what
listen.
Sanara says. She said, they run when it gets too hot. And that is true. What y'all talk about that? Why is that? Why do men, like, and I think it goes what you said, like your ego and things. Run when it gets too hot. It's like you'll create something that starts a flame, and then you want to get out the kitchen.
Well, I think that has to do with us, pride, right? Number one, but then also two, we don't know how to deal with our emotions, as men. And then number
Yeah,
three, we're not willing to sacrifice our feelings in the moment, right? We're not
yeah.
willing to sacrifice for the greater good of that conversation or of that, to get further along in whatever it is we're trying to accomplish between one another.
Mm-hmm.
Or can I throw four in there? Intentions. What were the initial intentions going into this situation? You know, and
Yeah.
sometimes the intention. So sometimes it's like I started one place and it became something different. It's something different. I wasn't anticipating this, and then everything else falls into place. And next thing you know, you out. You know, so I think it is a combination of those things. I can go all day for that one because I got theories on that, but I think it is. You know, and I think that again, I think that goes both ways too. Sometimes we, and I think a lot of times for men because we get so set, we're so focused on what we thought it was going to be, how we thought it was going to be, and then like I said, because we can't properly handle that change, we don't know how to deal with some of this stuff we're going through.
Yeah.
It's easy to run in a lot of situations, and so it's easier to just
For sure.
ghost and get out of there than deal
Yeah.
with it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
listen, Kenny, and Candace, you said something too that'll take us into our next topic, right? You
Mm-hmm.
said learn it. We get a chance to learn the person, but to do that, right? We do that in the beginning stages of our relationship, and then it progresses as we go on.
Yeah.
But that's becoming an effective listener, right?
Okay.
But as we go on, we get selective with how that's done, and
Mm-hmm.
which is not it's not the best way to go about it. But when our feelings and our pride and we're not willing to sacrifice our feelings in the moments get
Yeah.
in the way, we stop. We choose not to be an effective listener. But let me ask y'all, I'm gonna pose this question to y'all. What is it about hurt feelings that makes us not want to endure what we're feeling to listen?
That I
Oh,
was.
easy because it's hard.
Yeah. He can go ahead. Go ahead.
I was because it's hard to acknowledge and deal with and go through the process of handling, dealing with it, and working through it. It's harder to do that. And a lot of times people don't want to put forth the effort to do it. You know, so it's real easy to just talk. I don't want to deal. Forget it. Dismiss it. We dismiss our feelings. Sometimes we even do to ourselves and lie to ourselves about some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But to go through that, it takes the work. It takes the effort. You know, you have first you have to acknowledge it. Now you then the shame and everything you feel about when you have to acknowledge something. Then to work out of that and through that. So a lot of times when it comes to communication, it's easy to just ignore it or act like you ain't. You know, you don't have to deal with it and process it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I would say I think it's that familiarity of that pain, that familiar feeling of being there and knowing how it takes you and what it does is like we are like we said before, like people stay in situations and don't leave because nobody wants to deal with the breaking, what comes with the breaking, the sleepless nights, the heartache, the ups and down and all of that. So it's like that familiar hurt is like, wait a minute, this feeling is familiar and then it's like that fight or flight kicks in. You know what I mean? That we go that fight
Yeah.
or flight syndrome that I think that a lot of us suffer from and that we have, and that's just naturally it kicks in, and that causes issues, but also mainly with society and to like as far as like what it tells you. You guys talked about that on the very first show, like what society is telling you a man is supposed to do and what he should and shouldn't do, and then your partner may not be receptive to you being sensitive. It's just a bunch of foolishness, but I think it's that familiar place, that familiar feeling that makes you be like, wait a minute, I recognize this pain. But if we say, hey, I recognize this pain, release it, pray on working about healing yourself, then everything else would get better. If that answers your
Well, it's
question.
interesting you went there. It's interesting you went there with it, Candace, because one thing I've learned was when I continue to make mistakes for myself, Kenny, you know, learning how to listen to myself, right, was a biggie, right?
Yeah.
Especially when I was experiencing the same failures, right? But then also when I said selective, we do this in outside relationships too, relationships at work, right? Relationships and friendships, right? We're selective when we choose to listen, even in difficult moments. We experience difficult moments at work, right?
Yeah.
But there are times at work we still got to go ahead and be great, right? So we still here, we still problem solve. But when we get home, we don't want to do it. Like when we get home,
Yeah.
we don't choose to be as great as we were at work,
Why is
right?
that
And
though?
the one I've learned it about myself, right? One thing that I've learned about myself is the patience that it's almost as if I ran out. Like I ran out of patience at work. I gave all of the effort I was willing to give. But then I had to realize the work ain't over, pimp. You gotta go
Yeah.
ahead home and still put that work. You still got work to do.
Yep.
It's not
Yeah.
over.
Yep.
And not if you're a king.
Yeah.
Not if you're gonna be a king. You still gotta
Yeah.
work. You gotta work. You gotta work at work. You gotta work at home.
I think it's
Yeah.
because I
And
think
I
that
think,
maybe people deal with it at work because you're getting the pay. He's like you're getting paid for it.
Well,
yeah.
listen,
And
I agree with you, but what I will say is this, right? There's nothing more important than to have peace at home,
Yeah.
since you know
yes,
you're gonna
yes,
deal with it outside the
I agree
house.
with that.
and and agree.
Y'all, do y'all
And I
give us
think
a heart
another
and a
thing
thumbs
too
up
is
if
it's
y'all
real.
agree? Give us a heart and thumbs up tonight for that
Yeah,
if you agree with that. Let us know.
I think it's real easy also too to take it out on the people closest to us. Sometimes we take advantage of the
Mm.
people closest to us. We know they're gonna be there. They there. So a lot of times it's real easy. I can project. I can dump on them, or I don't have to. I don't feel like I have to put as much work for them because they there. Whereas at work, I can get fired. You know, not realizing
But
it,
at
it could be the
home,
same thing
she
at
can
home. You
leave
don't
your
really.
ass too.
I know, but a lot of times we
Nah,
don't think of it.
love don't account for that. Love
What?
don't
But that's
account for
but
that.
we.
She not going. Listen,
Love don't hurt either. Love
but
ain't
But
gonna.
that's
listen. What
but
I'm
that's the
saying.
thing. Like
Go ahead, Kenny.
now, what I'm saying is we take advantage of some of those situations. You know, we do. Sometimes we don't think, oh, she's gonna leave. Not until you start seeing the sign. You start seeing it's too late. Then you start getting your act together. But a
Yeah.
lot of times it's like we
Right.
don't even thinking like that. It's just like we get home, we dump, and we so focused on what we doing that we're not realizing that we are really taking advantage of the people closest to us. You know, where
Yeah.
like I said, so sometimes we don't make that correlation. It's not until the
Okay.
light bulb goes off and you say, "Wait, I do got to work over here too." But sometimes, we look at both those things differently, work and home, not realizing a lot of what we go through in the process are the same for both, really. But we don't make those tie-ins.
Yeah. And listen, I know we only got 10 minutes, and we got to get to this next topic. But um, what I will say is, yes, Kenny, I began to see it in myself when I knew I was bleeding on my kids, when I started to have to parent myself out of them.
What do you
Once
mean? What
once
does that? What does that mean? I've never heard that. Parent
Now,
to yourself out of them. What does that mean?
Yeah, when your kids are you. They've been
Yeah.
around you so long, they're you. So once they start to make the mistakes that you've been making, you
Mm-hmm.
start to see it, but then you start to see their
yeah,
mistakes and be similar to the mistakes that you make, and you like, oh no, no, that's me. And then while you're talking to them, you're not saying that's me, but you're saying it to yourself, like, oh my God, he got my anger. She does what I do. She got my mannerisms. Right. And then we say, oh, that's my child. That's my child. My
Yeah.
yep,
child. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you end up saying. You know what I mean? And I knew that it was a problem because for me it was anger. And
Okay.
my children, they're all boys, but they're siblings, right? So they would begin to be angry with one another. And I mean short circuits. Short
Okay.
circuits. I mean, video, and I would see it over the simplest things.
yeah.
Right? They down there playing 2K. Right, go
Mm-hmm.
knuckle up. I'm thinking to myself, oh, hold up, what is this?
They don't play about that 2K
You said
now.
that. You said that's you, Ryan. That was you, Ryan. You was on them. You playing Madden.
Oh
You was
my
getting on. You was getting
gosh.
into it.
And I didn't realize I was that easy of a spark, but then that's where, but and this is the thing, right? Because you guys said, well, she would leave you, right? But listen, love is the strongest force on this earth, right? So there are things, and there are times where you subconsciously manipulate that fact. You know she ain't going nowhere at times, right? But then you also know
Exactly.
that she does get sick and tired, but you subconsciously manipulate it because you know that she's not going anywhere. And because she's not going anywhere and she's actually trying to solve your problems and cultures backwards, we learn from a backwards culture, like you said, Kenny, our minds, our computers. So when she tries to solve our problems and tries to come and nurture that thing out of us, we go backwards on her. We start bleeding on her. We get angry at it. we start getting mad at it. You know what I'm saying? And we end up ruining the situation that should have been making us better.
But then you also have to remember too, you have those that will leave. That won't be like, oh, I'm gonna be here. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
for
saying? Like
sure.
Yeah,
it's like a gamble. It's like a
but
gamble you take.
it is a gamble. But a lot of times we so comfortable we don't think about that. It's
Okay.
not even in our thought process. We don't even fathom it at that point because we so over here with it, you know.
Yeah.
So that's
And
why
what we
sometimes
do
it's
know
not
though,
until too late. Yeah,
but what we do know is it's not automatic, right? That's what I mean. I'm not saying that this can happen for 30 years and then she ain't gonna go nowhere. That's not what I mean, right? And
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I
so
want y'all to say clear that up because
I'm not being drastic when I say it, but what I am saying is you got a grace period in there because she loves you, right? And if
yeah,
yeah,
she loves you because for who she sees. And sometimes in our blind spots, we don't even see who we are as men or as
yeah,
women, right? So
yeah,
we don't even know why at times why they in love with us. We take that for granted at times, right?
yeah.
But that transitions us into I don't even know how we're gonna cover this in 7 minutes, but
What is it?
let's give it a go.
communicating and then listening to our love languages, right? Let's be honest, right? All right, so I had to I learned that I this was my way of this was my way of telling my wife how to love me. In that moment, I didn't realize it until I got hindsight, right? That gift of hindsight, right? But there were times where my wife just came at me like a straight bulldozer, like she was a whole nother man in the living room, chest out, arms wide open, everything. I'm thinking to myself, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. We'll be in here fighting. You can't do that. You can't do that because we ain't get. First of all, we're not getting nowhere like that, right? You can't have two men in this house. You feel me? And no, you can't. No, you can't. It's
Right.
never gonna
You
work.
two is gonna be like five because y'all got three.
It, yeah, it ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work, right? But what she did was, my wife was intelligent enough to take my dysfunction, because that was dysfunction, right? Because I was meeting her in the middle, like, hold the fuck up here, like,
Yeah, yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
But she would take, she was intelligent enough to see, yeah, he right, this ain't working. So
yeah.
she would take it a whole nother step, right? And this was her becoming strategic,
Hmm.
right? I just had it. I had enough. I'm not saying it was the best communication skills, but I had
Yeah.
enough wherewithal to tell her what wasn't working, right? Right? Most dudes don't even get that far.
Well, you
Like,
that's why I think you are just like different because like you said, most men don't get that far and most men, when it's a woman thing and all that, they not really trying to recognize and take no accountability and ownership in it or not being able to be like, you know what, this is a good woman. This is my wife. We gotta figure things out or I want to be here. You recognize those things with self. Like it starts with you recognizing it with you and wanting to do something different. A lot of people can recognize things that's in them and that's wrong and they want to do different, but it's a battle for them and it may take them 10, 20 years. And by then it's too late. She off to the next highest bidder or something.
yeah,
Because everybody, like we said, people either grow with you or they grow out of your experience. So it's like you can't really take advantage of that. If you know your person's love language is quality time, you can't be outside all the fucking time. Or you can't be at work all the time. If you know it's words of affirmation, okay. When she or he get dressed, you gotta say, "You damn girl, you look good," or you gotta do that, or hey, I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? If it's gift giving
yeah.
and receiving gifts, okay, well, you're gonna have to send some goddamn gifts. It's all about just really knowing that person. And like I said, I just don't think people are really. I don't really think a lot of people today is really just people out here having
Well,
kids to secure a bag. You know what I'm saying? To have a check. Like, what is the last time you actually heard you guys being men? And y'all, I know y'all are up here with it, but for the people that are not up here, like y'all, the people that's not woke yet, that we trying to bring to the light, like what like what do you guys like say or what suggestions you give for people where it's like you can't keep just leading a horse to water and they not drinking it, you know, and expecting things to never change or your person to never grow or to never get tired or, it's like you gotta do that on self, you know.
Yeah, I think it starts with us, right? Because the reason why I say it starts with us is because I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer, Kenny, that we're out in front. Me and my wife, we're out in front together, right? But she steps into my spine and she holds me upright. But I also believe that once I begin to want to heal, wants to change, right? Energy is transferable, right? And sometimes that can be vice versa. I'm not saying that that's the same for every single situation, right?
Absolutely.
There's times where a woman might choose to change first, and a man might get his stuff together because of the energy that's being transferred, right? But
Okay.
in my case, yo, like it's I know this is cliche to say, but it's 50-50 for me. There's times
Yeah.
where I was able to push forward and get some things adjusted in my head, that my wife responded well to. And then there were times where my wife did the same thing, man. And I was able to conform into her energy as well, right? She handles some of the most darkest moments. Like, my wife taught me how to deal with depression. As a man, I didn't even, you already know music, so I would sing the Music Soul Child for y'all, man.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Men
Let me
was
hear
not supposed to get that. We were not supposed to get depressed.
it.
Never, right? We
Yeah.
do not cry. Why would we do that? You know what I mean? So for me, I just simply I threw that outside of my head. And in that sense, I would ignore myself. I wouldn't listen to the things that was going on inside of me. I wasn't listening to the things that was getting ready to burst inside of me before they actually burst. Right. And then
Hmm.
I would suppress it,
Okay.
suppress those issues so much that those things would turn into depression.
Yeah.
Right. They say depression is
Yeah.
nothing but suppressed anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, my wife, she taught me how to get through. She was the one that got me journaling. To this day, she's the reason why, I'm a writer. To this day, she's the reason why I have the podcast. The True Kings podcast. I mean the Ryan Dunstan podcast,
Yeah.
right? And the words from a humble king come from her.
Yeah.
Like they really do. And,
Hmm.
and and if she wasn't there to bring that version, remember I said she stands in my spine. If she wasn't there to bring that version of myself like out of me, y'all wouldn't hear it. I don't even. I'd probably be in jail somewhere.
She had
Like
patience. I remember when I met her. She's,
Yeah.
when we did that first show, like she had she had patience. That's
I
that
don't
I
know if I
people.
say she had patience, but
Yeah.
she.
I
It's
mean,
like no,
I'm just
I'm
saying,
just
like
playing.
she didn't break you.
I'm just playing. She
She
probably
didn't
on here
break you
too. I'm
off.
just playing.
She didn't break you off to put your man out for
You
you.
look. You already know it. Wait till you get off the
Right,
show.
right.
But one thing
No,
I'll
she
say,
did.
yeah,
She
one thing I'll say,
sacrificed, man, and she endured, man. She took her feelings and sometimes laid them on the side, laid them to the side for me. She did.
yeah.
So in your case, it's
Um,
like she got lucky, because you have some people who do that shit for people that ain't even trying to change. You know what I'm saying? And it's just the same old
I'd say
thing.
I got lucky, to be honest with you,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's what I'm
for
saying. Like
sure.
for real,
You
that's
got
a
to say that,
blessing.
bro. You better say that. Nah. Yeah. Nah, but I mean, so throwing this out there real quick, I think as we're talking about what people need to do, I think one thing to remember is you get in a relationship with somebody, a lot of it is not about you at this point.
Right.
You know, I think
Yeah,
we talk about, like we said earlier, we live for our kids and stuff, but sometimes we have to live for our partner too. And we have
Yes.
to be able to let that go at some point. Like I think a lot of times, like I said, we so focus on us and what we're doing and how we feeling and how we feel about this and how we feel about that. But we need to take the time to figure it out both ways, or how they're doing, how they feeling about it too. We have it's some, and I'm gonna say this, and it's not gonna be popular. Y'all gonna kill me, whatever. It ain't about you, dog. It ain't.
yeah,
But we have to get through that first, because I have to understand. I have to be able to communicate with her. I have to work with her. We have to come together at this point.
yeah,
But to come together, it takes some of those things, to sacrifice, to working through, learning each other's love language. I gotta learn her.
yeah,
How do I learn her first? I gotta figure this stuff out, and simultaneously dealing with my bullshit. It takes both things happening. You can't do one without the other and think it's gonna work. It's really not.
Yeah.
You know, so you can learn your partner, but if you ain't working yourself, it ain't working. And if I work on myself, but I don't know her, it ain't working. You
Yeah.
know, but that's where you got to put forth the effort in a lot of this stuff. But I think for us, if we at least acknowledge ourselves and begin that work, like for Ryan, Ryan had to put the work in. She came together, it helped, it worked, you know. But the example he was saying, it was like, but he still had to now. Once he knows that, now he has that journey to work through it,
Yeah.
and that's when
Which
it
is a
begins for him.
process too, Kenny. Like that's a process all in itself. The
Yes, it
moment you
is.
decide that it's not about you,
Ongoing,
yes.
ongoing.
Yeah.
The moment you decide that it's not about you, that ignites or initiates a process in you all in itself, right? Because then you learning then now you're learning humility. Now you're learning how to control your triggers. Now you're learning how to control your anger. Now you're learning how to correctly deal with those things and correctly process the things that you're feeling. Now you're learning how to feel. The one thing you ain't really want to do, King. Now you're learning how to communicate. Now you're learning how words have power, right? and
Yeah.
and 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 listen, it keeps, like you said, Kenny, it keeps going because every new level brings new devils. So you're gonna keep on going through new things that brings out versions of you ain't never met before. But you got to learn how to muzzle certain parts of you, but then also
Yep, and
communicate
even
other parts of
yeah,
I like Shannara. Shannara said, "How many
and
of
even
women
as
go
life
through the
changes, both
process?"
people evolve. That's the key. That's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
So I ask, are we willing to do it? That's why I think at some point look inside themselves, look themselves in the mirror, and say, "Are we doing this? Are we going to be willing to do this?"
you. How
Yeah.
much guts does that take? Oh
That's going to
my
that's going to take a
gosh.
lot of that's going to take a lot of
That's
showing up, a lot of accountability, a lot of recognizing the issues and with yourself. You know, people don't want to sit and
but
deal with self.
but
We rather hang out, party, drink, smoke, lust, what? Shoot dice,
yes,
rob a bank. You know what I'm saying? Whatever
and
they
you,
like.
and you,
Anything to
Any
distract you.
and it's
anything to
Anything to
us.
just
distract you.
yeah, from really
But
dealing with
but
your
yeah,
shit.
but for us, that process, that's manhood. That's what that is. True
Yep.
manhood.
And you know
Yep.
what it does? It brings it back full circle to what we was talking about earlier. It creates the angry woman, the black woman. I had to do that for
So
Ryan. I had to do that for Ryan.
I ain't even gonna let you bait me into that.
I'm pushing the buttons.
I see.
No, but
But
no,
look,
No.
but look,
it does though. It can
See,
contribute.
see,
we have been able, right? And listen, I know we're a little over time, y'all. I want to thank everybody who was able to show up and
Yeah.
comment and interact with us. Keep hitting the like button, keep hitting the share button, y'all, and please continue to join in because
yeah.
like Kenny, we done been on a journey, man. We done been from safe place for men to fall to spiritual schizophrenia to words have power to relationship dilemmas. Hey, listen, man. I figure we go ahead and take another step and let's start talking about compatibility, right? Because you got
Ooh.
some that's in the relationship they shouldn't be
Do
in,
it.
but then you got
Ooh.
some that don't even know how to pick one, right? And then you don't know, and then you got some that don't know when they need to chill out and stay
Let's
in there
do
and
it.
endure some things to bring out the best in your foundation. So I think that
Oh yeah,
next week.
I like that. I'm liking this.
So
Yes. That's gonna be Monday.
Yeah. So let's do
look,
it next
next
week.
week,
We here.
yeah, next week,
Yeah.
compatibility. We're gonna go through that one. We got some interest. I got some interesting things I want to attack in that. Hopefully, we have enough time because this man, I still feel like we could have got deeper on love languages, but because we're only within an hour time frame, we had to cut it a little short. So I appreciate everybody joining us, and I'm Ryan Dunston, Kenneth Wilson. You guys come back. This is the Speakeasy Show, man. Y'all come
Dennis
back
Wilson. Yep. We here.
on the Kenny on the Candace's platform, man. The Candy Coded Secrets, Advanced Vibrations. Thank you for allowing us to use this space to speak on the things that I feel like most ain't even really willing to speak on. So
Look,
next
they in the
week,
comments saying do a
compatibility.
part two. They saying do a part two.
Do a part two.
We can do it.
We could probably
We
spend a
can do a
full
part two.
hour on this.
We can
Like
We can. You know, because what
on
y'all
every
want to
one of
do,
these
you
joints
know,
too.
we could. Yeah.
Communication,
yeah. What y'all want to hear
I think
matter
we could.
too. So do a part two. They y'all matter too. You know, we appreciate y'all for going
Yep.
with us as we're doing this. These fellas are doing a lovely job. I love it. Like I said, everybody is loving it. You know, I ain't heard the P word. I ain't heard none of the P word. You understand? None of
What's
that
the P word?
the pandering. You already know.
Oh
He
man.
made me say it, Kenny. I wasn't trying to say it.
Oh man. I feel like once you hear the truth we
I know.
spitting, man, it ain't no
Yeah.
way
I
you could put
know.
that word in the
Yeah,
air.
I love it. I love it. I appreciate you guys. You know, it was dope.
Yeah.
You know, thank you guys for doing it. This is your
Absolutely.
show.
I love it, man. And listen, join us next week, man, at 9 o'clock,
Yep.
next Monday night, Speak Easy Show. We'll
Sweet.
decide whether or not it's going to be a part two of compatibility. We'll see. But we'll see y'all next week.
Yeah, we'll see y'all next week.